At 0437 hours on December 19th, 1944, Private First Class Joseph Martinez, aged 22, opened his eyes to find 8-inch nails driven through both his palms into an oak tree in the Hürtgen Forest. Blood ran down his wrists. The temperature was 14 degrees Fahrenheit. 47 German soldiers surrounded him in a semicircle, their weapons lowered, watching him regain consciousness. His unit from the 28th Infantry Division lay dead in the snow 30 yards behind him. He had been alone for 6 hours. Joseph Martinez grew up in Pueblo, Colorado, the third of 7 children born to Miguel and Rosa Martinez. His father worked the steel mills. Joseph dropped out of high school at 17 to help support the family during the Depression. He enlisted on his 18th birthday, March 4, 1940, before Pearl Harbor, before anyone knew there would be a war. Basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia lasted 13 weeks. He qualified expert marksman with the M1 Garand rifle, scoring 198 out of 200 points. The average score was 170. His drill sergeant, Staff Sergeant Howard Walsh, aged 34, told him he had the steadiest hands in the company. The Army shipped him to Europe in November 1944. The 28th Infantry Division, called the Keystone Division, had already lost 6,184 men in the Hürtgen Forest. The average life expectancy for a rifleman there was 12 days. Martinez had been on the line for 8. The mission on December 18th was simple on paper. 2nd Platoon Baker Company would advance 400 yards through dense forest to establish an observation post overlooking a German supply route. 23 men moved out at 0600 hours. Lieutenant Thomas Brennan, aged 24 from Boston, led them. The forest was different from anything they trained for. Trees grew so thick that sunlight never reached the ground. Artillery had shredded the canopy, leaving jagged stumps and fallen trunks everywhere. Snow covered everything 3 feet deep. You couldn't see 10 yards in any direction. The cold went through 4 layers of clothing. Frostbite claimed more casualties than bullets in the Hürtgen. Men lost toes, fingers, noses. Some froze to death in their foxholes overnight. They reached the observation post at 1340 hours without contact. Lieutenant Brennan positioned the men in a defensive perimeter. Martinez took the northeast corner with Private Eddie Kowalski, aged 19, from Detroit. They dug fighting positions in frozen ground. It took 2 hours to dig 3 feet down. At 1847 hours, as darkness fell, the Germans hit them. The first indication was a stick grenade that landed in Lieutenant Brennan's position and killed him instantly. Then machine gun fire from 3 directions. MG-42 machine guns, called Hitler's buzzsaw, fired 1,200 rounds per minute. The sound was a tearing canvas, continuous, deafening. Tracer rounds lit up the forest like lightning. Private Kowalski took 3 rounds through his chest in the first 30 seconds. He died without making a sound. Martinez returned fire at muzzle flashes. He went through 2 8-round clips before his rifle jammed. A piece of frozen mud had gotten into the action. He cleared it, but by then German infantry was inside the perimeter. The fighting became hand-to-hand. Bayonets, rifle butts, entrenching tools. Martinez killed 2 Germans with his bayonet before a rifle stock caught him across the temple. He went down. When he looked up, Sergeant Frank Morrison, aged 27, was trying to drag him back. Then Morrison's head snapped sideways and he collapsed. The entire engagement lasted 11 minutes. 21 Americans died. Martinez and one other survivor, Private Leonard Shaw, aged 20, were dragged from the position by German soldiers. Shaw had been shot through both legs and was unconscious from blood loss. The Germans, from the 275th Infantry Division, took them back to their company command post, a bunker complex 200 yards away. A German officer, Hauptmann Klaus Weber, aged 31, interrogated Martinez in broken English. He wanted to know American positions, strength, plans. Martinez gave name, rank, serial number. Nothing else. This went on for 40 minutes. Weber lost patience. He ordered his men to make an example. 6 German soldiers dragged Martinez back into the forest. They stripped off his field jacket and shirt, despite the cold. One soldier produced a hammer and 4 8-inch nails from a supply crate. 2 soldiers held Martinez against an oak tree, arms spread. The first nail went through his right palm. The pain was beyond description. It felt like his entire arm was on fire. The nail went through bone, severing nerves, tendons, blood vessels. Then the left palm. They drove the nails in at an upward angle so his weight would hang on them. His feet barely touched the ground. Blood ran hot down his arms, then cooled, then froze in the 14-degree temperature. The Germans left him there. A warning. A message. They returned to their bunker. Martinez hung there for 2 hours. The pain was constant, overwhelming, total. His hands went numb after 30 minutes. His arms screamed. His shoulders felt like they were tearing from their sockets. This was crucifixion. Romans had perfected it 2,000 years ago as the most agonizing death possible. The victims suffocate slowly because they can't expand their lungs while hanging. Martinez knew he had maybe 6 hours before he died. The cold would kill him first. His core temperature was already dropping. Hypothermia sets in at 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Normal body temperature is 98.6. Every hour you lose 2 degrees in these conditions. He was already shivering violently, the body's attempt to generate heat. Soon the shivering would stop. That meant the end was close, but the cold did something else. It slowed his bleeding. It kept him conscious longer than he should have been, and it made the wood contract. Oak wood contracts in extreme cold. The nails held, but the wood around them became slightly brittle. Martinez, in a moment of desperate clarity, realized something. His hands weren't nailed through the palms. They were nailed through the space between the bones of his hand, between the metacarpals. If he pulled hard enough, if he tore the tissue, if he accepted that he would destroy his hands completely, he might rip free. Most men wouldn't try. The pain would be unimaginable. But Martinez was already dying. He had nothing to lose. He pulled. The tissue around the nail in his right hand began to tear. The pain was so intense he nearly passed out. He pulled harder. Skin ripped, muscle tore. Blood that had clotted broke free and poured down his arm. The nail was cutting through his hand like a wire through cheese. He screamed. 30 seconds of pulling and his right hand ripped free. Tissue dangled from the wound. 3 fingers on his right hand no longer worked. He could see bone. He used his right hand, barely functional, to grab his left wrist and pull. The left hand took longer. A full minute of pulling, tearing, destroying his own hand to get free. When it came loose, he collapsed into the snow. He lay there for 5 minutes, gasping, bleeding, freezing. Then survival instinct overrode everything. He crawled toward the German bunker complex. Not away from it, toward it. They had taken his rifle, but they hadn't searched the bodies of his unit. American bodies still lay where they fell. Martinez crawled to the nearest one, Private Kowalski. He searched the body and found 2 grenades. He crawled to another body, found a trench knife. His hands barely worked. The right hand had 3 functioning fingers. The left had 4. He crawled within 20 yards of the German bunker. He could hear voices inside, speaking German, laughing. They thought the American was dead on the tree. Martinez pulled the pin on the first grenade with his teeth and threw it left-handed into the bunker entrance. The explosion was muffled, then came the screaming. Germans poured out of the bunker into the darkness. Martinez was in the snow, waiting. The first German who ran past him, Martinez drove the trench knife up through his groin into his intestines. The soldier fell. Martinez took his Kar 98K rifle and bayonet. The bayonet was a 10-inch blade. What happened next, over the next 47 minutes, was documented by American forces who found the position the following morning. 63 German soldiers died in that forest. Martinez used the bayonet almost exclusively because his ruined hands couldn't grip a rifle trigger. He moved through the trees like an animal, attacking from behind, from the side, from positions the Germans didn't expect. They were disorganized, panicked. Their officer, Hauptmann Weber, tried to rally them, but Martinez killed him third. Weber took the bayonet through the throat. He bled out in 90 seconds. Martinez was operating on pure adrenaline and rage and hypothermia-induced delirium. His body temperature was now 92 degrees. He was in the early stages of severe hypothermia. Paradoxical undressing, where victims feel hot and remove clothes, would come soon. But that last surge of energy, that final fight-or-flight response, gave him superhuman strength. He felt no pain. His vision had narrowed to a tunnel. He only saw targets. The Germans scattered into the forest. Martinez hunted them. Small groups, individuals. A soldier hiding behind a tree took the bayonet through the back. 2 soldiers trying to set up a machine gun position died before they loaded the first belt. Martinez grabbed the MG-42 and fired it one-handed, his ruined hand steadying the barrel. He killed 9 men with that burst before the gun overheated and jammed. He dropped it and picked up another bayonet from a dead German. Some Germans tried to surrender. Martinez didn't stop. This wasn't combat anymore. This was vengeance. His friends were dead. They had nailed him to a tree like an animal. He killed every German he found. By 0437 hours, when dawn started breaking, 63 German soldiers were dead in a 300-yard radius. Martinez collapsed next to the body of Private Kowalski. American forces from the 28th Infantry Division found him at 0820 hours. He was unconscious, his body temperature at 88 degrees, both hands destroyed beyond recognition, covered in German blood and his own. Medics couldn't believe he was alive. They loaded him onto a stretcher and carried him 6 miles to an aid station. The division surgeon, Captain Robert Hayes, age 36, worked on Martinez for 4 hours. Both hands required extensive surgery. The damage was catastrophic. Tendons were severed, bones were shattered, nerves were destroyed. Hayes told Martinez later that his right hand should have been amputated, but Martinez refused. He kept both hands. They would never work properly again. The doctors counted his injuries: 2 puncture wounds through both palms, severe tissue damage to both hands, hypothermia, dehydration, shock, and 17 separate lacerations from the fighting. He had lost 3 pints of blood. Another hour and he would have died. Martinez spent 6 months in military hospitals, first in France, then England, then Walter Reed in Washington, D.C. His hands healed slowly, badly. He regained partial use of 6 fingers total. The other 4 fingers remained curled, useless. He learned to write left-handed, poorly. The Army awarded him the Medal of Honor in a ceremony on June 12, 1945. The citation mentioned his extraordinary heroism and gallantry above and beyond the call of duty. It didn't mention that he had killed 63 men with their own bayonets after being crucified. That detail came out later. He also received the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, and the French Croix de Guerre. General Dwight Eisenhower personally shook his hand at the ceremony. Martinez said later that Eisenhower's handshake hurt his damaged hands terribly, but he didn't pull away. He returned to Pueblo in July 1945. He married his high school sweetheart, Maria Gonzalez, aged 21, in August. They had 4 children over the next 9 years. Martinez worked in the same steel mill as his father, operating machinery despite his crippled hands. He adapted. He learned to use tools in ways other men couldn't imagine. He never spoke about the war. His children didn't know about the Medal of Honor until they found it in a drawer when they were teenagers. The nightmares never stopped. He woke up screaming 3 or 4 times a week for the rest of his life. Maria held him until he calmed down. The pain in his hands was constant. Cold weather made it worse. Every winter, the old wounds ached. Doctors prescribed morphine, but Martinez refused it. He was afraid of addiction. He took aspirin, sometimes 20 a day. Joseph Martinez died on November 8, 1982, at age 60 from a heart attack. Over 2,000 people attended his funeral. The governor of Colorado gave the eulogy. Martinez Avenue in Pueblo was named after him in 1983. The VFW post in Pueblo bears his name. A statue of him stands in the town square, erected in 1985. His Medal of Honor is displayed in the Pueblo Heritage Museum. His philosophy, told to his children many times, was simple. You do what you have to do to come home. Nothing else matters. He was one of only 464 men who received the Medal of Honor during World War II. Of those, only 3 survived the specific combination of torture, crucifixion, and hand-to-hand combat that Martinez endured. Historians consider his actions in the Hürtgen Forest on December 19, 1944, among the most remarkable individual feats of the entire war. The German 275th Infantry Division's war diary, captured later, recorded the incident with one line: entire company position overrun by single American soldier. Casualties catastrophic.